Welcome back. It's rather noisy here on the seafront. We're literally sort of 25-30 metres from the seafront. It's very, very noisy. It's windy. I wanted to tell you what happened the other night. Those of you that follow regularly will know that this car generally drives on LPG. This is the LPG injectors, and this is it's called valve saver. I've had that added. LPG doesn't have all of the additives that regular petrol has to sort of prevent engine wear. Now this, a tiny little fragment of that gets injected into every stroke, into every cylinder. That gives all of the additives to prevent engine wear. So what happens if you go onto hard kick down, the engine quickly switches back to petrol. It won't let you kick down viciously on LPG. And if it runs out of valve saver, it automatically goes back from LPG back to petrol. Now, LPG engines have to start on petrol. They only stay on petrol for about a minute, but they have to start on petrol, and then they automatically switch over onto LPG and valve saver. And those of you that have been following will know that I've had a bit of an issue with the cold starting, and I was blaming this pressure relief valve. I was believing that was open, and when I was cranking the engine and trying to build up a pressure, you need pressure in the fuel rail, and then that pressure feeds the individual injectors, but you need a certain amount of pressure. Now if that valve is open, the fuel is going straight past and just returning under the engine and back to the fuel tank. If it remains closed for too long, too much pressure builds up in the rail, and it floods the cylinders, and that can be a real problem on startup. So I was sure it was this. Then it went away, so I thought maybe not. I also suspected the thermotime switch. The thermotime switch operates the cold start injector. But no, something happened to me on the motorway the other night. The car, it ran out of LPG. My normal supply didn't have any. They were out. So I bought extra petrol. I thought I'll just do the extra journey on petrol, fill up later with LPG when I can. Now after about 5 minutes, I was cruising on the motorway, and I noticed that the car just didn't seem to have any power. It was doing 70, and I pressed the accelerator, and nothing happened. I thought, oh my goodness me, absolutely nothing. It just didn't increase the power. And I was daft enough to sort of let off the accelerator and see if I could get it re-going. And I let off, and it went down to 60, then down to 50, and it wouldn't. I just couldn't get it going again. So I was thinking, bloody hell, this is not good. I was on a motorway. In the UK, they're converting most of the motorways to what they call smart motorways. And they've got all sort of, it's all controlled by cameras and speed cameras and the like, but they don't have a regular hard shoulder whereby if you break down, you can pull over. And what they have every so often, these are probably every 2 or 3 miles, are like a refuge area. It's just a small little lay-by, about 40 metres long. And I managed just to nurse this car along and limp on petrol. And I realised as I was driving along what had happened. I was thinking, well, it feels like it's run out of petrol, but I've just filled the tank with petrol. And I also know, well, we all know, because if you saw the films, you saw me fitting a new petrol pump. And so we know it had petrol in it, and it's got a brand new fuel pump. So I was driving along and I thought, this has failed. This bloody valve is opened. And what it was doing, it was letting the fuel run along the rail and go straight through the valve and return to the tank without building up enough pressure to feed the cylinders. And it started to go pop, pop, tug, 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 pop, pop, pop. I was thinking it really sounded like it had run out of petrol, but it wasn't. It was being starved of petrol. Absolutely sure. But I managed to get to this lay-by on the motorway, and the car just spluttered to a halt. I left it for a minute, turned the key, and it refired. It drove for about 5 minutes, then the same started to happen again. But I'm still on this ruddy motorway without a hard shoulder. But I managed to sort of pull off at the next junction, and I went into the town centre, which happened to be Northampton, and I did find a place that could fill my tank with LPG. As soon as I got this car on LPG, it ran beautifully, because on LPG it's bypassing the fuel rail and what I suspect to be a temperamental intermittent pressure relief valve. The LPG is fed under pressure. It's I forget how much pressure it is, but it's quite high. It comes from the tank itself. Under high pressure, it feeds itself under pressure. You don't need a pump, and it doesn't have a pressure relief valve. I forget how many pounds per square inch is in the tank, but it is quite high. But yeah, the engine ran beautifully on there. So what I've done, I've ordered a new pressure relief valve, a brand new one, and but the thing is, with it's Easter now, and with Easter postage, I'm not really sure which address to have it posted to, because this won't get dispatched till probably Tuesday. Where are we now? It's Saturday. It definitely won't get dispatched at the earliest until Tuesday after Easter. On Tuesday I'm due to be back. I'm in Brighton now. I'm due to be back in Nottingham, but only for 2 or 3 days, then due back in Brighton. And I think it will arrive on Friday or Saturday, by which time I'll be back in Brighton. So I'm going to take the chance and have it delivered back to Brighton when I'll go to Nottingham and I'll come back again. But this is going to be troublesome, so I'll need to make sure that I do not run out of LPG. The car will have to be topped up with LPG. The problem is, not everywhere sells it. You can sort of go 50 miles or so looking for a station, and it is a bit of a nuisance. That's the only downside of LPG. You can't always get it, but I'll just make sure I'm completely full before I leave, and I'll stop about halfway, either Northampton, Luton way, and fill up again. I won't try and run the bloody thing with an intermittent pressure valve. It will break down. But I'll let you know how it goes when I fit it, but I think I'll fit that, and it should cure my cold starting issues. My original suspicion was this valve. If you look back at the videos, you'll remember me complaining about this valve. And then, I cleaned all the terminals up, and I thought, well, maybe it wasn't the valve, but I'm back to thinking it really is this valve. So, we'll see. I'll just be very careful, make sure that I'm constantly running LPG and not relying on petrol. It should be okay.